Welcome to Bulldog Talk on the Edge. I am your host, James Burrell, and I have my co-host,
Paris Smith Savage.
Today we have two very special guests, the Hamiltons.
Thank you all for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be with you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Yes, I think I'll go first. I'm Dr. Majella Hamilton, and I am the executive director of the Ballard House Project and a historian. A little bit more about myself is that I am a former journalist as well as a business owner, and I manage and preserve a nonprofit organization here in Birmingham, Alabama.
Wow, so that's very cool.
I'm Herschell Hamilton. I am a husband, father, brother, and native of Birmingham, Alabama. Went to Parker High School, graduated from Parker, went to Howard University in Washington, D.C., came back to Birmingham to work, went to Birmingham Southern, got a master's degree, and I currently am the chief executive officer of a company called Block Global Group. We're in the commercial real estate development and investment business, and we also have a professional services firm that does work with electric utility companies.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Tell us, why was your father called the dog bite doctor?
During the civil rights protests of the early 1960s, as you all probably know, young people like yourselves were called out to protest injustices and the lack of rights that African Americans had. And so they did peaceful marches in the parks and in the streets in this area called the Civil Rights District. And the police at the time tried to break up those protests, and they used dogs, vicious attack dogs. And they also they called out the fire department, and they used fire hoses to literally spray down the marchers. And one of the things that my father used to always tell me is that the fire hose, the power from the water in the fire hose is strong enough to rip the bark off a pine tree. So if it can do that, imagine what it does if it hits you as a person. And so a lot of the marchers were injured during the protests by dog bites, by fire hoses, and various other things. And so my father's medical practice was a block and a half from Kelly Ingram Park. And he was a local doctor, a general surgeon, and he was active in the civil rights movement. And so he set up his medical practice at the time as a triage station, like an emergency room, to treat those marchers that were injured during the protest. And so when people were injured, they would bring them around to his office, and he would patch them up and then send them back out to protest because they were really determined to really fight for the rights that they were fighting for.
And one of the things I just would like to add to what he said is that the marchers and demonstrators were also adults. They weren't all just children. There were teenagers as well. And one of the things that Dr. Hamilton always shared was that in addition to the injuries, the physical injuries, the trauma was a powerful it had a powerful impact on the individuals as well as collectively. So it was really devastating for them. And so that was one of the reasons why he spent so much time in doing what he was doing. He was committed to the mission of the movement.
Right. And as a result of that, they began to call him a dog bite doctor. Some people called him the battle surgeon as well.
I have a question. Was your mother involved in the same or similar way?
So during the movement, the 1960s, she was not. I have three sisters, and we were all stair-stepped. Like literally, my oldest two sisters are 10 months apart. I'm 11 months from the next one, so we were like one behind the other. So she was consumed at home with three kids and one on the way. And so she was not actively involved. When she was in undergraduate school at Alabama State, she was involved in some of the activities that were going on in Montgomery at the time.
What was it like growing up being a child of someone involved in the civil rights movement?
It was so I was born in the early 1960s, and during that period of time, um, I was so young that I, wasn't aware of what was going on. But as I grew, our families would always tell us stories about those activities and their roles in those activities because they wanted us to be in a position to never forget those things and the contributions that people made, not only my father, but the many, many people who were participants in the movement as well. And so I grew up being told stories about the things that they did and being introduced to people like Fred Shuttlesworth and Ralph Abernathy and other movement leaders who my father interacted with as I grew up here in Birmingham.
And his patients consisted of residents of the city of Birmingham and surrounding communities. His patients also consisted of civil rights leaders such as the Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, Reverend Abernathy, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Many of the leaders sought medical treatment from his father because he was a general surgeon, but he was he was the doctor for everyone. So
Mhm. Since he helped so many people, did he or your mother steer you in any direction to continue the fight?
So it's really interesting. Both Majella's parents and my parents were both involved in the civil rights movement. Majella grew up in Louisiana, and so they had similar issues around race and class and African American people striving for
the
their
right
rights.
the rights of
Yeah,
citizenship.
rights of citizenship. And so we grew up being taught that we have to fight for things that are right. And so you innately begin to learn and understand that you have to speak up. You have to be in a position where if you notice something is going on and it's wrong, you have to be empowered to speak up. And so they always taught us that we had a voice and that if we saw something that was going on that was wrong, we could speak up about it, in a respectful way, but being able to speak up about it. And then, if your question is relates to, steering professionally, so my father was a physician, a doctor, and all of my sisters and we all thought that we were going to be doctors, because we saw my dad doing that, and so we all went to school. We all were college. We were all pre-med majors. And my youngest sister and I decided to do something different. My oldest two sisters, one's a periodontist, which is a dentist. The other one's a urologist. So she's a physician. I decided that I was interested in business. And so I started a career in business and real estate and investment banking and did that for a number of years until the time that I started our company.
Mm.
And one of the things I want to share with you, as I indicated, I am a former journalist and I'm a historian now. But one of the things that I want to share with all of you is that it doesn't matter what profession you're in, what field you're in, you can still make a difference for your community. If you see something or know that something is unjust, it's important for you to not just speak up, but to act. Even if you're standing alone, if you know that there are, unjust laws or perhaps those kinds of things happening, people are not being treated fairly. That is what this is about. African Americans at the time, in 1963 and prior to that time frame, they had for decades and decades and decades experienced separation, segregation, unequal rights. And they understood these were their rights of citizenship, American citizenship, and that's what they were fighting for.
What do you want people to remember about your father?
So there are a number of things that really stand out to me and that I find myself conveying to other people. One of the most important things about him was that he was altruistic, and that means the unselfish concern for the welfare of others. And so his interest was greater than himself. And so one of the things that he did, for example, was when he was a physician and practicing medicine, he would treat anybody, regardless of whether they had the ability to pay for his services or not, because he felt an obligation as a physician to, he took the oath that he took very seriously. And so he wasn't concerned about, what impact it would have on him. He was concerned about providing services to his patients and all of other people that he interacted with. And then the other thing, this is just an example is, when we were kids, doctors did something called house calls. You all don't know what a house call is, but it's when doctors would come to your house. You were sick, you call a doctor, he'd come to your house and, with his medical bag and he'd check you out. And so he made house calls, and a lot of times he would take us with him. So he'd load us up in the car, and we'd go with him on these house calls. And he would always leave us in the car and say, "Look, I'll be back, in 15 minutes." And so, um, but it was a demonstration of his concern for patients.
Who
Can you
couldn't get there.
who couldn't get there?
Couldn't
Like,
get to him.
yeah, like imagine somebody calling you at 10 o'clock at night and saying, "Oh, I'm really sick. I'm not feeling well." And you say, "Okay, well, give me your address. I'll be there in 20 minutes." I mean, that's commitment. And so he was committed to his profession. And that's what I tell people, regardless of what you do, you really have to be committed to your work. If you're in a real estate business, if you're in a public works business, if you're a teacher, if you're a librarian, you know, commit to the work that you're doing, and you'll really succeed well in life.
And one thing I would like to add is that Dr. Herschell Hamilton, he would to the point of treating those who weren't able to pay, for those who needed surgery, he would tell them, if you would get yourself into the hospital, I will actually perform your surgery free of charge. So he he took it to that extent where he assisted them if he knew that they were not able to pay, in making sure that they received the surgery that they needed. And he did that for many, many decades after the 1960s. He was in his medical practice for 43 years here in Birmingham.
What are you doing now to help preserve the history?
Well, right now, ever since about 2010, the Hamilton family, as well as community leaders, have been working in order to preserve the history, not just of Dr. Herschell Hamilton and other individuals associated with the Ballard House, but also we are at the Ballard House Project an historical research and community center. We are a cultural center within our community. So we host all kinds of community programs and cultural programs, and every day we're in the business of actively researching the very rich history of this community and sharing that history with the residents of our community, like you two and all of your classmates, and also sharing that history with visitors who come to our city. So that's one of the major things that we are doing. We have a 501c3 nonprofit entity, and we're dedicated to gathering the history, preserving the history, and sharing the history with the community. One of the other aspects of the Ballard House itself was that it was a convening space. Not only did it serve as a medical practice, but it also was a space where community groups, organizations, colleges, the Birmingham Black Barons, so many organizations and groups met at the Ballard House. Civil rights strategy happened there. And so we have made sure that we are preserving that history, but also making sure that we have reactivated it as a community space today.
I'll also add that the reason the Ballard House plays such a prominent role in what we're doing is because that's where my father's medical practice was located, in the Ballard House. And so the Ballard House, the historic home itself, was built in 1940 by an African-American physician, Edward Ballard. And as Majella just said, it was a place that became the social and civic and cultural hub because after Dr. Ballard left Birmingham in 1950, a lady named Jessie Perkins purchased the building, and she just opened it up to the community where, African-American organizations can meet and host and strategize during those very difficult segregated times. And so, as Majella has mentioned, the building has decades-old history that really tells a story of Black excellence in our community. And so that's one of those stories that one of the points that we make to young people like you. Black people have been excellent since the time that they arrived here in the United States. And so you have a rich legacy.
You absolutely do.
And we tell a story of that rich legacy through the Ballard House Project and the work that Majella does at the Ballard House. So young people like you all will always know that you come from a rich history of people who have excelled regardless of what the conditions were that they found themselves in.
They work together in coalitions and in networks in order to solve the issues within their communities. There were so many barriers put before them, and the way that they helped was to work in tandem in order to find solutions to those issues that they were facing.
How can we get around moves to erase so much history?
I think the most important thing today is really education. And a lot of times it's self-education. And when I say that, I mean you have to be interested enough to learn even more than you're being taught in school. Pick up a book about African American history and read it, so that you can learn more about the people, who preceded you on this planet, especially those people that look like you. And so, um, so, and then the other thing is just to advocate for, uh, the maintenance of African American history in this country because it is American history. This country was built, uh, by the labor of formerly enslaved people, African Americans. And so our community of people have contributed mightily to the growth and development and economic standing of this country for centuries. And so that has to be recognized.
Yes, we are part of a shared American history. And just as important as all of the rest of the history that we are learning. And so, as Herschel indicated, every profession, every field, no matter what you're interested in, even if you want to stick to that particular field, if you go back and learn about the history of that field, that's important. Also, learning about the history of your community,
Right.
your neighborhoods,
Right.
your parents, your churches, all of the groups that you might be a part of. That's important because they have shaped and formed you and will continue to do so. And it's important for you to understand that, and you will feel much more confident as you face the issues that we are facing today. You will know it will help you to form a stronger identity in yourselves, a stronger collective identity in your community, and it will help all of us to address the issues that we are addressing today.
Is there anything we did not ask that you want to share with our audience?
I just wanted to thank you for having us today and letting you know that we think you're special. We know you are special. Herschel and I are both graduates of HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. Not everybody is going to go to an HBCU. We understand that. But making sure that the history of the African American experience, which is part of American history, is something that we all take the time to understand and to know, and making sure that you get your information from different sources, not just one place, not just one type of, on the internet in one place, making sure that you are utilizing a number of different sources that are evidence based. And that's important. So thank you so much for having us. We are excited that we were able to join you today, and we hope that you will come to the Ballard House Project. We want to have you there this anytime you would like.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. We brought this article that ran in 2000 from the Anniston Star, and it's entitled "Breaking the Color Barrier." And so, what I want to impart to you all is that in your careers, we want you all to break barriers too,
No matter what they are.
no matter what they are. My father was born in 1925 in Pensacola, Florida, and so he had a lot of challenges that he has overcome in order to become a physician. So he broke a lot of barriers, and that's what I want you to keep in mind, that you come from a community that has a rich history of breaking barriers and doing amazing things within the context of whatever situation they find themselves in. And so you have the ability to do that too. And so I just want you to be barrier breakers, as you continue to live and exist, not only in this city, but in this country and in this world.
I have a question. Where's the Ballard House located?
I have an answer. Thank you for that question. The Ballard House Project is located inside the historic Ballard House, and that is located in the Birmingham Civil Rights Historic District. The property was designated by the United States Department of Interior as a contributing structure to the Birmingham Civil Rights Historical District.
The address of the Ballard House is 1420 7th Avenue North, and it's right next door to St. John AME Church.
Mhm.
All right. That's all we have. Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.